Welcome everybody to the Storytime channel. My name is Steven, and today we have some malicious compliance stories. Our first story of the day is by Meow Something in there. You want me to sue? Well, if you insist. My sunflower story seemed to go over well, so here is another lawyer story I hope you enjoy. None of the following is legal advice, and I am not your lawyer. On to the story. A friend from school reached out to ask for help dealing with an ambulance company. Her parent had passed away in an ambulance while traveling between a nursing home and a hospital. The ambulance company sent friend a bill, which she could not afford to pay, and was threatening to send the bill to collectors. Not a problem, friend. Your parents' estate is responsible for this bill. You don't have a personal obligation to pay it, so they can't send it to collections in your name. Let me just mail a short letter, and they should stop bothering you. I typed a very polite letter. This person has legal representation, please cease any and all shenanigans, and thought that was the end of this nonsense. Fast forward a few weeks when friends sent a picture of another bill. Because the law is so cut and dry on debt collection, I assumed the ambulance company had some computer or human error, which caused another letter to be sent. No worries, friend, I bet someone messed up. Let me give them a call real quick and figure it out. Imagine a super cool montage of me working through a really long automated phone tree before talking to an actual human. Hey, I'm friend's lawyer. I sent a letter asking you to stop sending her collections notices. She got another notice yesterday, so I just wanted to figure out why and how to make sure these letters stop. Surely this will be a quick call and we can all have a laugh about whatever error occurred, I think. We will stop sending her bills when she pays. But that's pretty illegal for a lot of reasons. I can think of 3 right off the top of my head. So instead of me getting all riled up and starting a lawsuit, can you just be cool? Pretty please?
It's not illegal. Try to sue us if you want our lawyers to explain it to you.
She made me say the phrase that I hate more than any other phrase in the world. May I speak to your manager, please?
Nope. I am the manager, and also more familiar with the FDCPA than you. What we are doing is perfectly legal. Tell your friend to pay.
So the FDCPA, Federal Debt Collection Practices Act, sets out certain rules for what debt collectors can or cannot do. But some states, like Texas, shocking I know, has stronger rules which protect debtors. I didn't know whether or not ambulance company was violating any FDCPA things, but I knew for sure. And when a good lawyer says for sure, that means 100% for sure they were violating TDCPA. Telling me I don't know what I'm doing is rude. Hassling friend after a parent passed away is shockingly rude. So last chance before I hang up to angry type a lawsuit and angry file it. You don't want me to sue on this because I will win.
Please do, and we will see you in court. Have a nice day.
Click. She hung up on me. Oh man, was I pissed. Easily in the top 10 of pissed in a professional context. The whole conversation took about 10 minutes. I have a fairly high tolerance for abrasive people. Most people don't look forward to talking with a lawyer. I get it. Still, sending collection notices to the wrong person after that person buried a parent and telling me I'm a bad lawyer was pretty mind-blowing. I literally started working on this complaint as soon as I hung up, because if I threaten to sue and you ask me to follow through, my hands are tied. After I filed and the company was served, presumably followed by an actual lawyer reading the complaint and thinking, oh wow, we freaked up here, a very apologetic lawyer called, and we reached an agreement to settle, which included an apology to friend. In your guys' opinions, did the company screw up here, or was it a sleazeball company trying to get their bluff called? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below because I think it's definitely one of the two. Our next story is by Galta. You sure you want me to flag your product line as not recommended? Okay. This is an electronics hardware malicious compliance. This happened more than a decade ago. I worked many years as a hardware developer at a big electronics company. My role spanned the gamut from an electrical engineer, But one thing I did often was board-level design for digital circuits. This involves designing in microcontrollers, FPGAs, ASICs, RAM, and all the various power supplies necessary to provide the correct voltages to run all these components. For digital circuits, we generally didn't want to mess with custom-tuned power supplies, so when little off-the-shelf supplies with everything built in came on the market, we gave them a really close look. This one small chip company managed to work their way into our supply chain. I'm not sure how they did it. They had local offices and the sales guy was the friend of a friend or something. Regardless, their parts were convenient, small, stable, acceptably priced, so over a couple of years, a handful of their parts got designed into some products. Meanwhile, some of the bigger chip companies, places like Texas Instruments, started designing very similar parts. Ones that were a little newer, a little smaller, a little cheaper, a little more stable. We were really incentivized to reuse parts to improve supply chain management and get volume price breaks. So, despite the other options, the little guy kept winning business for a while. Eventually, I ended up in a position talking to the sales guy, and he had to tell me all about their new product line. It was a little smaller, a little cheaper, a little more stable than their old line. It was so much better, in fact, that he told me that we shouldn't design their old products into anything again. I tried to clarify whether they planned to discontinue their old product line or if there were known quality issues with their old line, but he did the usual sales guy thing of not really answering the question, and he just insisted that the new line was better and we should use it exclusively moving forward. Now, I don't think there was anything wrong with those old parts, and as far as I know, those old products still ship with those parts today, but I couldn't get an answer clear enough to satisfy myself as an engineer. We had a way to flag parts in our internal system as not recommended for new designs. I told them that we always look internally before we design in new parts, and that I could mark the old parts as not recommended, ensuring they weren't reused. He said that was a great idea, and I should absolutely do it to all their parts in the system. I clarified that it would just mark their parts as not recommended, not suggest replacements, but he insisted we shouldn't use those old parts and marking them was correct. So, given my other uncertainty, I complied, put in the change order, and this company's entire product line was marked as not recommended in our system. The fallout was pretty simple. The very next design I did, I had to design in a new supply, and the Texas Instruments part had been on the market for a while at that point. They were a big, known, good partner, so it just made sense to design them in. That part had a wide variety of drop-in versions for different voltages and loads, and since one version was in our system, it was easy to reuse its footprint and add the version needed. So for design after design, various engineers stuck with the new line. I assume that small companies' new products released eventually, they probably sent me the data sheets. But I don't think I ever spoke to that sales guy again. And my company never designed in another one of their parts. The TI parts, after all, were in our system, and we were incentivized to reuse them for supply chain management and volume price breaks. That sales guy was so good until he wasn't. He was able to get them in the door and getting consistent buying orders and whatnot. But if you have buying orders continuing to come in, and you have sales continuing to come in, you don't want to just nuke that. If you can sell them on using the new parts, that's great. That's what you want to do. But you don't want to just get rid of the business you're doing with the old parts. Though of course, it's all hindsight. This next story is by Hypnos1214. I answered in my own words. A little background is definitely needed. This happened when I was in high school over 20 years ago. At this school, we had 4 classes a semester, so a total of 8 classes a year. Now, if a student was late for class, they were sent to STOP, which stood for Student Timeout Period. One morning, my dad took me to school. I wasn't 16, so I didn't drive. I usually take the bus, but for some reason, he dropped me off that morning. We were running a little late, but I had enough time to go to my locker, then to my first period class, which was right around the corner from my locker. There was a short hallway that had a male staff bathroom on one side and a female one on the other. This hallway was maybe 10 feet long and the classroom was at the end of it. I was about to turn the corner when the bell rang, and from the other end of the lockers, a teacher I had last year. She didn't like me because I put forth no effort in her class and got a 98 in it, and she yells at me to stop. She asks me why I'm late, and I say, "I'm not late, my class is right there." As I'm looking through the window to class, I say, "See, they aren't even settled, so I won't disrupt anything." She said, "No, the bell rang, you need to go to stop." Okay, whatever, I went to stop. While in this walk-in closet of a classroom, I'm seated at a desk that faces the wall. The stop teacher hands me a piece of paper with questions and answers on it and tells me to copy it word for word. I'm not going into details because this post will be long enough. I finish and raise my hand and give it to her. She takes my page and hands the other one back and says to answer these in my own words. So here are the questions and answers as close to accurate as I can remember. 1. What did I do wrong? My answer, gee, I really don't know what I did wrong. I guess I was less than 10 feet from my class when a bell rang and Mrs., who really does not like me, sent me here. 2. How did my actions affect my classmates? My answers? My classmates were not yet settled and my roll hadn't even been called, but I guess they just missed out on seeing me for 90 minutes. 3. How did my actions affect me? My answer, I'm stuck here answering these useless questions as a punishment for really doing nothing wrong. 4. What will I do next time? My answer, next time when the bell rings, I'll just ignore any teacher yelling at me and just go straight to class and let my teacher decide if I'm late. I think there was another one, but I can't remember it. So now that I'm done, I raise my hand to turn it in. The teacher comes over and collects it and starts reading as she returns to her desk. After 3 steps, she stops and turns around and says, "You think you're smart, don't you?" I said, grinning ear to ear, "Yes, ma'am." I had to sit there staring at the wall for the rest of the first period. You know what's great punishment for a child? Making them stare at a wall. That'll definitely lead to a reform in healthy behavior. Rules are rules, I get that. But anybody that's like the stickler, like, well, actually you're not in the classroom yet, so go to stop. An average person would hate anybody that acts like that. And our final story of the day is by Shoddy Professional. You want me to do something that completely violates the terms and conditions? Okay, say bye to your promotion. I was hired as a robotics process automation engineer at this relatively large company that operates in several countries worldwide. My job was to create bots and scripts to free up our workers from the mindless, repetitive, manual tasks for them to be more useful, doing activities that require critical thinking and actual brain power. I was still fairly new to the company, about 4 months in, and was doing quite a good job of automating report generation, email sending, data input, etc. Now, my supervisor has been gunning for a promotion for about 2 years at this point and shared with me that one of his targets is a certain number of USD in cost savings, which is why he hired me. He crunched the numbers and determined that if I could automate the manual extraction of customer details on this external site we share with a customer, we can save up to 2 full-time workers worth of money. The platform is an order placing platform where we take customer details and input their orders in our systems for processing. I said, sure, sounds great. On my second day of working on the project, I was checking the site and noticed a CAPTCHA validation error on the site after trying to log in twice in quick session. CAPTCHA is a red flag in the world of automation because it's a measure to specifically prevent bots from operating on the platform. I reviewed the terms and conditions of the site and, lo and behold, written in all caps, there was a clause there that specifically prohibits bot usage. I emailed this to my manager and got a pretty long response about how this initiative can help our workers be more fulfilled in their work by not being bogged down by this mindless task, etc., etc. Full of neutral corporate speak, but pretty much just says,
"Just do what I said."
Okay, boss. So I programmed the bot to log in at specific intervals to not raise the CAPTCHA error and deployed the bot in 3 weeks. 2 months pass by without any hitches, and we get an email from our partner asking why the purchase orders are being opened and processed ridiculously fast. The upper management, my boss's boss, proudly responded that we've implemented a bot and that it's a great win-win for all parties. Orders are processed faster and we save money. The partner was not happy. They immediately requested the revocation of access from our end and called in a meeting to discuss the matter and included me. I was grilled for about 5 minutes until I showed them the email I had with my manager. They quickly let me go and had a closed-door discussion after that. Now, I don't know the specifics of the agreement, but from the grapevine, I heard that my company had to cut a $1,000 check to not be sued over potential violations of data privacy. The customer had no visibility over what the bot is doing with the customer data we extract. Suffice to say, my manager lost all chances of that promotion. Sucks because he's not really a complete jerk. He can just get real pushy on activities to try and get closer to that promotion. When it comes to anything that handles personal information, and there are very clear, explicit rules on the ways you can handle that information, I, as any kind of programmer, would not want to go against those rules. They had an email trail that saved them here, but I still don't know if I would want to do anything that violates data privacy rules and regulations, or any kind of data-related conditions. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today, so if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which story and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, and if you haven't, subscribe and turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. No matter what you do, whether it's just viewing the video, liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, I appreciate the heck out of it. Every little thing that you do helps the channel grow that much more, and I can't thank you enough for it. So, until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll be right here next time on the Storytime channel.